You know that feeling when an election cycle really starts to ramp up? It's almost physical. You walk outside, you open your phone, and the air just feels crowded. It's thick.
It's noise. It is a deliberate, overwhelming wall of noise.
Exactly. A battlefield.
Yeah.
You're getting hit with polls, slogans, accusations, promises.
Right.
And in all that chaos, the only question anyone ever seems to ask is, who's going to win?
Which is a natural instinct. It's a race. We want to know the winner.
We want to skip to the end of the book.
Precisely.
Right. But today, for this deep dive, we're going to do something a little different. We're going to try to ignore the horse race. We've got this framework here called GVO 1.1, or GOA Vote. And the very first thing that jumped out at me was a warning.
Right.
It basically says, stop looking at the finish line.
That is the core mandate. To really get this, you have to accept that GVO is not a crystal ball. It is not designed to tell you who wins.
It's an observation framework.
Exactly. The designer's philosophy is actually pretty stark. We don't judge the players. We observe the board.
Observe the board. I like that. It sounds less like punditry and more like, I don't know, physics.
That's a great way to put it, actually. Think of an election not as a sporting event, but as a weather system.
Or shifting tectonic plates.
Yes. GVO 1.1 is designed to log distortions. We're not looking at a candidate's smile. We're looking at the invisible mechanics, speed, silence, structure that warp the entire environment before a single vote is even cast.
So we're like meteorologists for political pressure, tracking the high-pressure systems, the vacuums.
Exactly. And like a meteorologist, we don't get mad at the storm. We just measure the wind speed.
Okay, so let's get into the nitty-gritty.
Yeah.
How do we actually measure this wind? The sources lay out this very specific daily observation template.
Right. These are the daily checks.
The first one is a bit of a mouthful. Issue narrowing versus language convergence.
It is, yeah.
Now, when I first read that, I just thought, okay, politicians keep things simple. We know that. But this feels more aggressive.
It is. And it's something you experience every day without really noticing it. In any major election, the actual problems are incredibly complex.
Right.
The source material here points to a three-way struggle of issues: prices and tax cuts, fiscal health, and defense.
Heavy stuff. You can't solve the national debt in a TikTok video.
You can't. But the language used to talk about them becomes what the framework calls single-threaded. The GVO framework tracks something called explanation cost.
Explanation cost. I love that. Break that down for us.
Well, think about it. Complex policies are expensive to explain. They cost time, nuance.
They risk boring the audience.
They absolutely do. But a phrase like immediate relief or tax cut now, that's cheap. Very low explanation cost, very high emotional impact.
So it's economic efficiency for vocabulary.
Yes, and the framework measures language convergence. How much has the vocabulary been compressed? Are we discussing the intricacies of Social Security funding, or are we just shouting the word safety over and over?
So issue narrowing isn't that there's only one issue. It's that the language is flattened so much it sounds like there's only one simple solution.
Correct. And that creates a distortion. It makes the voter feel like the choice is simple. But the reality is messy. The map doesn't match the territory.
Which brings us to the second daily check. And honestly, this one creeped me out a little. Silent zones.
Silence detection. This is one of the most critical parts of the methodology.
Because usually we're focused on what is being said, right?
Yeah.
We analyze the speeches, fact-check the ads.
We chase the noise. But GVO forces us to log the negative space, what is not being said. The documents mention things like long-term fiscal health, Social Security sustainability.
Specific funding sources for defense. I mean, these feel like pretty important things to not talk about.
Of course, but they're intentionally backgrounded. Why? Because of that explanation cost we just talked about.
Right.
If a politician tries to explain the 10-year projection for pension solvency, they lose the audience to the guy shouting a 3-word slogan.
So the silence isn't an accident. It's a strategy.
It's a survival mechanism. But here's the key. The GVO log doesn't just say they forgot it. It asks you to categorize the silence. Is it avoidance, invisibility, or intentional thinning?
Intentional thinning. That is such a chilling phrase. It sounds like they know the problem is there, but they're just stretching a tarp over it so you don't notice the hole in the floor.
And if you vote based only on the noise, you are voting in a world where those silent problems don't exist. But in reality, they do.
And eventually you fall through the floor. Okay, on to the third distortion. This one felt very sci-fi to me, but also weirdly relatable. Velocity mismatch, or shear.
This is my personal favorite part of the framework. It's about the physics of time.
Time. How does time distort an election?
Well, an election happens in two different time zones at the same time. You have the fast layer.
Social media, the news cycle?
Exactly. The vocabulary is now straight away, immediate. It's all dopamine. But underneath that, you have the slow layer. This is institutional reality. Budget cycles take a year. Legislation takes months.
Right. You can tweet build the bridge in 5 seconds, but pouring the concrete takes 3 years.
That's it exactly. Shear is the friction caused when that fast layer tries to overwrite the slow layer.
Give me an example of high shear.
When a candidate says, "We will fix prices tomorrow," the fast layer promise is 24 hours. The slow layer reality of supply chains and global markets is, what, 18 months?
Or longer.
Right. That gap, that is shear.
It's tension. Like the system is grinding its gears.
It's dangerous tension. The GVO log measures it, is the fast language completely detaching from the slow reality. Because when that tension gets too high, it creates an expectation for immediate results the system physically cannot provide.
It sets everyone up for failure.
It sets the stage for inevitable rage. But in the moment, that friction generates heat. It generates energy.
It's like tectonic plates rubbing together, you get an earthquake.
The perfect analogy. And then briefly, the fourth check, evaluation separation. This tracks person popularity versus administration evaluation.
This one seems straightforward. I like the guy, but I hate his policies.
It seems that way, but in a healthy democracy, those two lines usually move together.
The decoupling.
Yes, GVO looks for when they split. If the leader is incredibly popular, cult of personality style, but the policy evaluation is tanking, that's a huge structural distortion.
It means the election has become a theater of personality, totally unhooked from governance.
Mm-hmm.
So if we're logging this every day, sheer silence, language narrowing, what's the point? Why daily?
Because of calcification.
Yeah.
We need to see if these distortions are becoming fixed. If you log high shear and silence on finance for 10 days in a row, that's not a bad news cycle anymore.
That's the new reality.
The environment has hardened.
Okay, so we've got this incredible map. We can see the distortions, the silence. But here's the million-dollar question, and I know you said we aren't predicting. But surely, if we observe all this, doesn't it tell us the result?
You would think so. But this is the big pivot in the GVO documentation. Distortions tell us how the game is being played. They don't dictate the score.
Really? Because if I see high shear and high popularity, I feel like I know who's winning.
Not necessarily, especially when one specific variable changes. Turnout?
Ah, turnout. The classic wild card. I feel like the old wisdom is always low turnout favors the strong organization.
That's the old rule, and it's not wrong, but the GVO sources argue it's too blunt now. It's not precise enough.
Like saying rain makes things wet. We need to know how wet.
Exactly. We need a specific supplementary lens. The documents call this the winner reversal conditions.
And there's that specific name for this model, right? The Chukakurin model.
Yes, the Chukakurin model.
Now, Chukakurin sounds very specific. Where does that come from?
It's borrowed from organizational theory, particularly Japanese labor structures. It roughly translates to the central nucleus or structural core.
A structural core. Okay. And this is applied to voters.
Precisely. But here's the important part. This is an optional lens. The GVO observer only activates this model when specific conditions appear.
Like dropping turnout.
Like significantly dropping turnout. It analyzes a structural block of non-dispersed support.
Win a reversal.
Yeah.
That implies the person who should win loses.
Or rather, the person who has a majority of public sentiment loses to the person with the structural advantage.
Okay, let's break this down. The model has 3 variables. And the claim is, when these 3 overlap, you can flip an election result without public opinion actually changing.
That is exactly what the model suggests. It's mechanics, not magic. Let's look at variable 1, fragmentation of forces.
This is the opposition being a mess.
Yes, but how they're a mess. GVO looks at the conversation. Is it about content, like my tax plan is better than yours, or is it about composition?
Who was allying with whom?
Exactly. Will Party A merge with Party B?
Oh, I see that all the time.
Yeah.
It becomes a soap opera about the roster instead of the game plan.
Right. And when that happens, that is high fragmentation. Voters get confused.
It creates decision paralysis. If I can't figure out who's on which team, I just tune out.
Which leads to variable 2, non-dispersed support. This is that hardcore structural block, the Chukakurin.
These are the voters who do not waver.
They are immune to the shear. They're immune to the silence, the news cycle. Their vote is an identity, not a choice.
They're the rocks in the stream.
They are non-dispersed. They stick together.
Okay. So, a messy opposition, and a solid core. What's variable 3?
Turnout pressure, the downward pressure on general participation, the exhaustion factor.
People just checking out,
Yeah.
saying, well, I can't deal with this noise anymore.
Yes. So here is the synthesis, the aha moment. Imagine a general population that actually wants option A. They are the majority.
Okay, so in a high turnout world, option A wins. Easily.
Yes. But the shear is high, the language is confusing, and the opposition is fragmented, variable 1.
So the general public gets exhausted and stays home. It's variable 3.
And the denominator of the election shrinks.
Right.
The denominator shrinks. And when that happens, the numerator, that non-dispersed support variable 2, becomes mathematically dominant.
The hard core hasn't grown. They haven't convinced a single new person.
Not one. But because everyone else stepped back, their percentage of the total skyrockets.
So the winner is reversed. The result doesn't reflect the majority sentiment. It reflects the structural geometry of who showed up.
Precisely. A winner is determined not because the public will shifted, but because the structural variables overlapped to amplify the static block while suppressing the dynamic one.
That's actually kind of terrifying. It means you can win by being less popular just by being more solid.
It's not terrifying to a structural observer. It's just math. It removes the emotion. It's not good guys versus bad guys. It's dispersed forces versus non-dispersed forces.
And that's the core of this whole approach, isn't it? We don't judge. We just calculate the friction.
We calculate the friction and the density.
It makes me think about how we all consume news. I mean, for you listening right now, bombarded by alerts.
Yeah.
How do you navigate this? The sources mention information noise.
Right. If you want to apply GVO to your own life, you have to start filtering. The framework advises watching for assertive discourse lacking primary sources.
People stating things as facts without saying where the info came from.
They say, everyone knows. Who is everyone? Where is the data? If the source isn't there, it's just noise designed to increase shear.
Okay.
But there's a subtler trap, confusing information increase with language compression.
Explain that, because I feel like if I read 10 articles, I have more information.
Usually, yes. But in an election, you often get more content but fewer unique words. If you read 10 articles and they all use the exact same 3 slogans...
That's not information increase, it's just jamming the signal.
It's compression, and it creates decision-making pressure. The environment is designed to force a fixed judgment quickly. Everything is pushing you to decide now.
Before you have time to process the slow layer reality.
Exactly. The distortions are designed to bypass your slow thinking and hit your fast thinking.
So we feel like we're being informed, but we're actually being conditioned to snap judge.
That is the function of the distortions.
This has been intense. We've looked at the daily logs, this whole reversal model. But I have to ask, if GVO doesn't tell us who should win, and it doesn't predict who will win, what is it for? Why do this?
The goal of GVO is to make the outcome explainable after the fact.
Explainable how?
So we can look back at the results, whatever they are, and say, this happened because the shear was high, the silence on finance was fixed, and the opposition was fragmented.
Rather than just lazily blaming the voters.
Exactly. We usually say, the voters were wrong or stupid or tricked. GVO suggests, no. Look at the pressure they were under.
It creates a record of the environment.
It validates the environment. If you walk into a room full of funhouse mirrors, you're going to see distorted shapes. GVO just maps the mirrors so we don't blame our eyes.
That's a surprisingly comforting thought. It takes the blame off the individual and puts it on the system.
It allows for analysis without anger. If we see language convergence was 100% on tax cuts, we shouldn't be surprised if the fiscal reality collapses 6 months later.
We logged it. We saw the silence.
We knew the bill was coming.
It's like checking the black box after a plane crash, but we're recording the flight data in real time.
A perfect analogy.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the one thing you want the listener to walk away with?
I want to leave you with a question. The next time you step into that voting booth or you mail in that ballot, just take a breath and ask yourself, are you making a choice? Or has the environment, the speed, the silence, the fragmentation already made the choice for you before you even picked up the pen?
That is something that is going to keep me up at night. But, in a good way. It makes me want to listen to the silence a little bit more.
That's the first step of a good observer.
Well, thank you for guiding us through this. It's a whole new way to watch the news. And to you, the listener, thanks for taking this deep dive with us into the invisible architecture of elections. Keep observing, stay curious, and we'll see you next time.